Alrighty. I want to go over to stats. Here we go. We got the San Antonio Spurs here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do our off-season preview. Jackson, why don't you cue this off?
Okay. Yeah, so obviously Vic's going to be a Spur soon. But if he isn't, that's where you have to start. Who are you going to take?
Can we be realistic? Victor Wembanyama is not going to Detroit. Victor Wembanyama is not going...
Yeah, he's going to the Spurs.
He's going to the Spurs or Charlotte?
It's going to be Spurs. I think it's going to be Spurs, Pistons, Hornets, Rockets. I think that's... I
don't know. You and I talk with this about Luke all the time, that the NBA is so narrative driven. And
it's rigged.
I know, but okay, people don't realize San Antonio is the international franchise of the NBA. If you go outside the NBA, besides a Lakers jersey and maybe a Celtics jersey, the third most popular jersey you will see anywhere in the world is a Spurs jersey. You'll see probably someone wearing a Tony Parker, a Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan. Like, those are probably the most common jerseys in my travels of Europe and South America, that if it's not like a LeBron or, Paul Pierce or Jason Tatum or something like that, it's a Spurs jersey. Duncan, Ginobili, Parker. And I'm in my mind, I think the NBA is well aware of that. And they know they know that it's a good look for him to go to San Antonio. The only other franchise I see is Charlotte, is because Charlotte's kind of been, they've been in this hole. And the thing is the NBA doesn't give the number one pick to teams that tank.
They don't give the worst. The worst record never gets the first pick anymore.
Or the team that intentionally tank. The freaking Sixers only got the number one overall pick once. They had to trade for it the other time. Yeah. They only got the number one pick once. Simmons? Yeah, and it was Ben Simmons. And they tanked 6 years. Yeah, they tanked 6 years in a row and got the number one pick once. The NBA does not give the number one pick to a team that tanks. So that's why I say the Spurs, because they actually tried winning games and then they lost them. And then also the Hornets, because they just literally, the reason why they sucked this year was they were decimated by injuries. And I just think regardless, they're going to get a top 3 pick. I think regardless if they get Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, or Brandon Miller, all three of those guys, I mean, obviously, I think one, depending on which one you get, next year could be, if they get Victor Wembanyama, they're a play-in team in my mind. Maybe even Scoot. If they get Scoot and Vic, they're a play-in team. I don't think they're that far away from being back into playoff basketball.
No, yeah, not at all. Weren't they right in it last year? Or did they make the play-in 2 years ago, or did they just miss it? Either or.
Yeah, basically they were right in it. And the thing is they have a starting center in Zach Collins. The guy was averaging 16 and 10 to close out the year. Okay, you got your starting wings in Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. You have your starting power forward in Jeremy Sohan. Trey Jones is either, an average starting point guard or an elite backup point guard. They have the pieces here. They now just need to bring in some vets, figure out who's the guys to keep around. And really, if they get Scoot or Vic, I could see this team being like the Thunder.
Yeah, that's fine. That's first and foremost is who are they going to get in the draft. I think, Vic or Scoot, they'd be very pleased with. It would be interesting if they fell to 3 and had to take a guy like Brandon Miller. I'm curious what they would do in that situation. But it's going to start off with your draft. They do have a lot of decisions they need to make. The good news is you have guys like Sohan and Vassell who are really solid. Sohan's super solid. They do a great job of drafting every single year. We saw it with Branham. They just do a good job drafting every year. Trey Jones is going to be a point of emphasis because if you get Scoot, well, that makes that decision a lot easier. But how much do you pay Trey Jones, and what does he do on your team? Because he was a bench player at the end of the season. So you're thinking, Do you go after a vet like a Mike Conley if you draft Vic? Do you go after a Freddie Double V? Do you go out there and get a point commander? Because I think they do. I like Trey Jones
It
a lot,
depends.
but
It depends on where they go in the draft. If they get, Scoot or Vic, like the number 1 or 2 pick, I think they go out and get some vets. Okay, if you bring in a Scoot Henderson or a Victor Wembanyama, don't be surprised if they go out and get themselves a Fred VanVleet on a 3-year deal.
yeah,
And they bring in, an established, all-star player to be here with Victor Wembanyama, because you bring in Victor Wembanyama, everything changes. You bring in Scoot Henderson, I think you can also say everything changes, that you're trying to win. And even if you bring in Scoot Henderson, bringing in another guard to teach Scoot how to be a point guard in the NBA would be good.
Yeah. Lastly, Keldon Johnson, I think, is a possible trade candidate at some point next season.
What?
I'm curious what they're gonna do about it.
Why?
Because I'm imagining that their backup's gonna be Sohan for it, but Keldon plays the 3. So
Sohan's a
Keldon
power
Johnson,
forward.
what was that?
Sohan's a power forward.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keldon's a 3, but they're both wings, but Sohan can do a multitude of different things, but he doesn't have a 3-point shot.
Sohan's a small ball 5 and a power forward. They're saying Jeremy Sohan is supposed to be a more athletic, modern day version of Draymond Green.
The only reason I'm bringing up a Keldon trade is if they had a backup ready to go that they felt comfortable with that they don't have quite yet. The reason is Keldon Johnson's on one of the best contracts in the NBA.
That's why I was shocked.
Is he still 20? I think he's still 23. He's either 23 or is he a fresh 24. This guy was so inefficient this season. In fact, his field goal percentage has dropped all 4 years in the league. He shot just 45.5% from the field. He's not great at mid-range. He's no longer good at 3-point shots, which is weird. He shot just 33% last year.
He's horrendous. Every single year, his team's got worse.
Yeah, but his efficiency has gotten worse every single year. So that's why I'm saying
he has to create for himself. He's not a self-creator that as much. Like, he can, but he's not like the guy that he is right now. When you bring in a guy like Vic, you bring in a Scoot, all right, his efficiency will jack up.
So then let me be more clear. I'm not saying trade Keldon Johnson. I'm just saying if a opportunity presents itself, because Keldon Johnson, even though he's had an inefficient season last year, still gave you 22 points a game. I don't think Keldon Johnson is the face of their franchise. I don't think Keldon Johnson is their franchise player. However, he could have, breakouts or continuing to break out and get to that efficiency level, as you're saying, get a point guard around him, maybe a vet point guard around him that makes it easier on everybody. But it is just an interesting thing that should be noted is he's on a phenomenal contract, and you just never know. He just might be the odd man out on this team because Vassell looks really good. Sohan looks really good. Whatever rookie.
Well, Vassell's their shooting guard.
I know that.
They're 3.
I think
you know what's crazy?
I'd rather have Vassell be my guy than
Keldon Johnson's best stats came at power forward.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, Keldon Johnson, past few years was a power forward, but with Jeremy Sohan, they moved him back to his natural 3 position, but he used to play power forward for them. Now, like you said, Keldon Johnson's on too good of a contract to be traded.
For right now.
Yeah, but if they, for some reason, fell in the lottery to the 5th pick and they were going through another terrible year because they had to draft Cam Whitmore, I could see them trading Keldon Johnson, but that's very small, and I think not.
Yeah, I don't think they're quite there yet. I just think it will come up one day unless he gets his efficiency going.
Keldon Johnson's a month older than me. He's born October 11th, 1999. I'm born 11/11/99.
So I'm older than Keldon Johnson?
You're older than Keldon Johnson.
Fucked. That is fucked.
All right. I just expect next year the San Antonio Spurs, depending on where they draft, to be making a